He's going live on his YouTube channel and Skyping us into that.
Oh, wow.
He's just trying to get, so we'll see us up there.
Yep. Hi, everybody. It's meteorologist Joe Cioffi here on this really kind of gray, gloomy night across much of my area. And this is, you know, I've been telling you guys on my regulars here on the YouTube channel that I've been trying to get this issue resolved so that we could bring guests on a regular basis. And Janet Dunn, you are the first of our guests tonight. You hear me okay? Are you hearing me okay?
Yeah, we're just getting feedback from Skype.
Okay, we're probably going to have some technical issues along the way, but we're going to give this a whirl. But this is the meeting of the Northern New Jersey Weather Observers, and my YouTube channel folks are coming on board as well. Thank you very much for joining me on my debut here on live streaming with guests. And we're going to go hopefully get to do this a bit more. So what's the theme of your meeting tonight? I don't have your audio. Guys, can you hear? Janet?
Well, we were hoping that you could just give us a little glimpse into the outlook for the summer, and then some of the new models.
Sure. Well, you know, there are a couple of things that are going on that I think are a bit different this time around over maybe what we've seen in past years. I think you know, my memory is thinning out. I'm trying to remember much of last summer. Nothing about last summer really stood out to me except for the fact that the beginning of June was so terribly hot. That one stretch of weather we had, and then that wound up being the hottest weather of the whole summer. But then we had all those hurricanes running around later into August and September. And well, let me start off with a couple of things. First off, one of the more unusual things that's happening right now, I'm going to bring this up full screen, so we may both disappear for a while. You guys are hearing me okay?
Yes.
Perfect.
Awesome. All right, so I've got up the Pacific satellite loop, and you can see there's actually three systems. If you look in the lower left, you've got the remnant low that was Hurricane Aletta, a Category 4 hurricane, and to the northeast of that, we have Tropical Storm Bob, which yesterday was a Category 4 hurricane for a brief time. And then to the southeast of that, we have disturbed weather that's becoming better organized, and that might become the season's third tropical storm on the Pacific side in the last 10 or so days. One of the things that strikes me about at least the start of the summer is the fact that we have this Bob going into Baja California. And that's usually something that you don't see at this time of the hurricane season. We usually see that more as you get into August and September. And this is because if you look at the motion of clouds up off of California, you have a deep trough that's dropping down the west coast. So this system is actually going to probably bring a little bit of drought relief to the southwest. I mention it if only because of the fact that it seems to me that the upper air is a bit different than what we've gotten maybe used to seeing for this time of year. So that might cause some interesting developments as far as the longer term. I mean, the relative longer term over the next couple of weeks. I'm going to bring up the latest run of the GFS model, and then I'm going to go back and talk some more about hurricanes. So you guys are going to be off screen for a bit, as will I. By the way, we want to say thank you to Levi Cowan of Tropical Tidbits for letting us, always generously letting us use his maps. So as far as the next couple of weeks are concerned, we've got this beautiful last weekend of spring, we finally are going to string together 4 great days, I think. The humidity is not going to come up until we get into Monday, but we keep seeing these weather fronts dropping down from the north, and that's something that's been a little bit different, I think, than what we maybe have experienced in the last few summers. The other thing I want you to notice, by the way, the remnants of go down in the lower left. You can see the remnants of Bob coming inland over Mexico. That moisture actually goes up into the northern plains and comes over the Great Lakes and eventually drops southeastward to us on Tuesday of next week. I mean, I don't know how much is going to be left, and if I didn't tell you there was a tropical storm that fed in the moisture, you wouldn't probably notice the difference. But it's kind of interesting how it's going up and around, and when you look at that track, that's around the big upper high that's in the Midwest. And I think that we're going to be dealing with these troughs in the east maybe for a while, at least into the beginning of July, it would seem to me, because it looks like we've got a couple of weather fronts to deal with over the next 2 weeks. And when we look at the upper air, and I'm going to go to a wide North America view here, if I can bring it, if I can get to it, which tonight I can. When we look at the upper air for the long haul, we keep seeing these troughs dropping along the East Coast or just inland of the East Coast. And I got to tell you that jet stream in Canada seems pretty strong going into the latter part of June and into the beginning of July. You can still see these systems kind of swinging around one after another. So I would say at least for the next 2 or 3 weeks, certainly you are not going to be able to string together more than, when I talk about hot weather, I'm talking about, 90 to 95 every day, okay? I don't think you're going to be able to string more than a day or two of 90-degree weather back to back without some kind of front coming through. So that now whether that continues in some fashion as we get deeper into July and into the month of August, that remains to be seen. I know the last number of years we keep the ridge in the east usually likes to pop up sometime in August and take us through September and into October. I don't know whether that's going to be the case. Let me just really quick, I want to just acknowledge some of the folks that are on YouTube tonight that have come on. Timothy Veltman, David Fuller, James NASCAR, Jay Heidezik, Isaiah Jacobs, David Schwartz. Delvin is on, Wayne S. T-Bear, Cynthia Guignautis. Yes, you made it on time. Good to see you here. Those of you who are coming late, this is our inaugural guests tonight are the Northern New Jersey Weather Observers. Janet, just tell us a little bit maybe about what your group does.
Basically, we have meetings once a month. We try to bring in guest speakers, talk about different climatological things, weather patterns, looking at forecasting,
good,
and measuring.
Yeah, many of us have our own weather stations.
Come into the picture so I can see you. We'll hear you a little better.
Here, I'll turn a little bit.
There we go.
Accessed online and through Rutgers. Dave Robinson has a network, and many of us, our stations are on it for real-time readings.
Awesome. Yeah, Dave. I know Dave's work, and the stuff that he has is very useful for us on a day-to-day basis. You can't have enough data, as long as it's good data, because they have to fix that Teterboro thermometer. There is something wrong with it. It's every day it's 5 to 7 degrees higher than everybody else, and you watch this coming Monday that if everybody makes it to 95 or 96 or whatever, they're going to go to 101 or 102.
It's probably too close to the runway for one thing.
Yeah. Well, even the Weather Service folks, and I spoke to them, we were talking about this, they brought it up actually. They know that there's a problem with that thermometer. Janet, Keith Smolin on my YouTube channel wants to know, where in northern New Jersey are you located?
Most of our members are in Bergen County. I think we have a couple Passaic County. We meet in Washington Township and Bergen County at the moment.
And is there a way they can contact you?
Sure, we have the website. Let me see. It should be it's just North Jersey Weather Observers, right?
NJWO.
Right.
NJWO.
NJWO.org. NJWO.org. For those of you, as we do have some Jersey folks that are on the chat right now. Thomas Saul just joined us from Connecticut. Maybe he'll take the drive to New Jersey. I heard you guys talking about the WestCon Weather Conference at I think it's in September.
Right.
Yep.
That's up in Western Connecticut University.
Yep.
Yep.
I may actually be able to go this year.
Oh, great.
So I might be there. So it was a good reminder for me. I got to get my paperwork done. Okay, so Rich Rothmansky wants to know, how long have you guys been together doing observations, that kind of thing?
37 years. Yeah, 37 years.
Yeah. 37 years. That's tremendous.
Yep.
Yeah, we all started, when we were 1 year old. So.
Oh, clearly, absolutely. I get it. Believe me, my hair is still its natural color. So let's go. I want to bring up something that's been talked about over the last couple of weeks. We actually discussed it here on one of my YouTube live streams a week or so ago, a couple of times, and it might be worth revisiting. And that is this particular map that I'm bringing up is the map of temperature anomalies of the water temperatures. I've got this global shot here. I'm going to try to make the North Atlantic a little bit bigger, or as big as I can get it to be. And one of the things that really stands out, now the blue, all that blue is ocean water temperatures that right now are below average. And one of the interesting things is, well, first of all, you've got this area of below average water temperatures that actually comes down to about the Delaware coast and then straddles the coast of New England and then really expands around Nova Scotia and Newfoundland and on up toward Greenland and Iceland. And then if you notice, as you go toward Western Europe, there's almost like a river of that cold water that has been draining southward with the Atlantic currents down to off the African coast and into the subtropical Atlantic. Now, a few people have surmised that this may lead to a subnormal, or perhaps less, let's call it a less active hurricane season because of this. And I initially thought about that idea, and a couple of things, might that we want to be cautious with something like this. First off, this is the coldest anomalies, the second coldest ever observed since 1982, and the only one that was colder was 1985. Now, it happened in 1985 that was about a slightly above average hurricane season, but it also was the same year you had Elena in the Gulf of Mexico and Kate. Both were Category 3s, and you also had Hurricane Gloria that year, which came up the East Coast. Not that it necessarily means that it's going to be a repeat performance. Past performance is no guarantee of future results, but my point is that just because these water temperatures are the way they are now doesn't necessarily mean that that's where they're going to be a month from now or 2 months from now. What is interesting to me is the fact that when I went back and looked to see when this cold pool started, it actually started right toward the end of February. And if you remember, that was when we had that big stratospheric warm-up, the weekend of President's Day weekend, where we had temperatures at the North Pole going above freezing. Temperatures up in the polar regions were 40 and 50 degrees above normal. And that set the the chain of events that eventually led to the four nor'easters in the month of March. So, one of the things that might be happening is, there's been talk about the salinity, the decrease in the salinity of the water in and around Greenland because of the glaciers melting, and that has created this cold pool of water that is now spread down south into the tropical Atlantic. Is it going to be there 2 months from now? I don't know. This kind of stuff does change on a dime, or can change over a matter of a couple of weeks. We could go from below average to above average, depending on what the weather patterns are. The other thing that I want to point out too is, and I'm going to have to bring up a separate map here. Did you guys disappear on me? Did we lose you? Oh, I think I might have lost them. Let's see if we can try and bring them back. Line's busy. I think we've lost you, Janet. Because I don't see you or hear you. Let's try again. Nope. I guess we're having some kind of technical difficulty. Maybe she lost the signal. I don't know. So you know what? I'm going to leave the window open, and if she rings me, we'll bring them back on. I'm sorry, guys. I don't know what happened. But in the meantime, you know what? I'm going to bring up. Let's look at the weather. What's going on right now? Because we do have some severe weather that might be developing now in the eastern part of the U.S. And in fact, we do have, as of 7:34, severe thunderstorm watches are up for much of Pennsylvania and through New York State. And we do have what looks like a developing line of storms in west central Pennsylvania and western New York. It took a little while for these things to fire up, but this is all inside the Storm Prediction Center's marginal risk and slight risk of severe weather, which they indicated yesterday. Also, we've got a marginal to slight risk of severe weather across eastern Colorado and western Kansas and on up into southern Nebraska. So that's going to play itself through in short order. So we'll see how this plays out tonight. The good news for the eastern part of the U.S. is the fact that we're going to see no rain through at least a good chunk of Monday. So this is going to be a nice, almost 5-day stretch here of some great weather. Just want to point out, though, with Tropical Storm Bud, this is the rainfall forecast for the next 7 days. So this takes us through next Wednesday. And you can see that there is some 2-inch plus rains being indicated for the parts of the southwest. One of the problems with this being really a big drought breaker for the southwestern part of the United States is the fact that this system is going to be moving. It's going to be caught by that trough in the west, and it's going to shoot its way up through the Rockies and into the northern plains. You can see there's a fairly large area of rain being indicated from Montana east across northern Minnesota and Wisconsin, and also down in the Gulf states from a separate system that's in the Western Caribbean that will eventually get into the Gulf of Mexico. I don't know how much development you're going to be able to get out of that because of the fact that it's going to be pretty close to land, and we are not going to have ideal conditions. They'll be a bit more conducive for development, but there might be a bunch of things that get in the way. So just bear that in mind if you don't wind up seeing anything come out of that with regards to tropical storm development. Trying to see if we can get the northern New Jersey weather observers back. Let me see if I can do it one more time. We'll retry. Let's do a Skype call. There we go. Let's try one more time. Let's see. Oh boy. With all the technology we have, and we still have these issues, I guess we're having a Skype problem. All right, let me come back to you guys. Let me come back to the board here. And I see, Timothy, you got that tornado watch is just to the west of you for the time being. I'm sorry, the severe thunderstorm watch. And in fact, here's another view, at least from the standpoint of the watches and warnings that we have. You can see the severe thunderstorm watches up in the salmon color, and already seeing a peppering of warnings of flying across parts of western New York and up in north central New York as well. So might be busy for the next few hours as this area moves on to the east. I just want to just also mention, going back to that, talking about the Gulf Stream, the fact that when we look at the temperature profiles, the actual temperature profiles in the tropical Atlantic, it looks like the Gulf Stream has kind of broken down. And I don't know whether that is something that is a short-term thing or a long-term thing. I would probably guess, if I had to guess, it's going to be a long-term thing. So why don't we bring up the U.S. map again and take a look at what's going on. We'll start with the HRRR model. I think that would probably be a good way to go here. So let's see. Is that? Nope. Wrong one. HRRR. And let's get a close-up of the Northeast. We'll see how the HRRR is handling these thunderstorms tonight. And here we go. So there's that line that's developing in western New York and western Pennsylvania. The northern part of that line seems to hold together. The southern part of the line seems to just fall apart. That's kind of what I'm banking on. So it looks like the roughest weather is probably going to occur up, say, from Ithaca, Rochester, Syracuse, on eastward, maybe holding together pretty well as they move across in through eastern New York along I-90 and eventually into western Vermont. And they start to fall apart after that as we go through the overnight. And with regards to the weather going forward, I mean, we really don't have too much to worry about. The upper trough that is off the East Coast is going to keep the humidity levels down here for a while, and you can see it on the upper air. This is the system that's coming through now, and you've got troughing off the East Coast. There's actually going to be a reinforcing surge of dry air coming in for Friday. The big ridge in the west, to the west, in the Ohio Valley and building up toward the southern Great Lakes, we still have this northerly flow in the upper atmosphere along the East Coast going into Sunday. So that is going to keep the humidity down until we get to probably Sunday night. And Monday's going to be the really hot day, because that's when you're going to have that westerly wind, a cold front to the north, and temperatures that are going to have nowhere else to go but higher. And in fact, you'll see on the forecast here for the afternoon on Monday, which I think is going to be the warmest day, you've got a large area of night. This is the GFS at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, printing 100-degree readings across parts of eastern Virginia. You've got temperatures in the mid to even upper 90s coming into parts of southern New England. I think even at coastal areas of Long Island, for example, the sea breeze will be practically, you'd have to be standing right along the beach because of the fact that the west wind will probably keep the sea breeze at bay. So we will, I'm thinking that this is going to be the hottest day of the stretch, but the weekend should be, it'll be very warm. It'll be in the 80s. It'll certainly be beach weather if that's what your plans are. We've got no storms on the horizon, so it's looking good. By the way, really quick, it was brought to my attention, and of course now I can't, it's so frustrating to do this. Why I'm able to do this the first time around and not the second is beyond me. I wanted to bring up Europe. And unfortunately, I can't, because I can't get the menu to go far enough down. This is so frustrating. Oh well. Hang on. I'm going to try it a different way. Okay. All right, hang on there, folks. I want to bring up Europe here. I was trying to get the North Jersey weather observers up at the same time. Always Smiling, who comes on from time to time, points out that they're actually getting a fairly strong storm that's coming into Ireland and northern England and Scotland. And I think I can bring it up on the screen here for you in a moment. And where did they go? Where'd it go? There it is. Ah! There we have it. Okay. So here you've got this pretty wrapped up low that's sitting to the west of Scotland, and it is moving northeastward. So they're forecasting 50 to 60 winds, gale force winds for parts of England and Ireland, and then that storm lifts up, and there's going to be another weaker low coming in over the week, Friday night, Saturday, and then that swings on through. And other than that, afterwards, it's just going to be the typical nonsense that you get as you go through the month of June with days of occasional showers, as England is known to be. Doesn't look like anything too unusual going on in Europe once this Atlantic storm plays through. It's named Hector, as I've been told. So a very kind of maybe a mid-spring storm there that they're dealing with over on the other side of the Atlantic. Okay, let me just bring up the chat. You guys on the chat. Kind of a sloppy live stream tonight, as I'm trying to do this for the first time. So always at the mercy of internet signals, both on my end and on the guest end. But we'd like to thank the North Jersey Weather Observers, njwo.org if you're interested. Anthony Orr pointing out that in Pennsylvania there's a tornado warning now up a bit to the north of Altoona. Yes, with that severe weather running around. Let me see if we can bring up that radar one more time. I'll bring up the regional northeast radar. You can see my voice today maybe a shade better than what it was, but still not quite where it needs to be. Let me freshen this up. There's you can see these storms, the cells firing up. So I guess this radar tends to be about a half an hour behind. So the line has probably increased some, and it's from these cells that you probably have that tornado warning that has been issued for Altoona, Pennsylvania. All right, folks, I'm going to leave it here at this point. Thanks very much for joining us here. Sorry again for the, kind of a bit of a slop fest with everything. Okay, let's see. Janet just messaged me saying trying to reconnect. All right. Because we're gonna. Let's see. I'll give her a try one more time. All right, so I know that this is going to be a problem now because I can't. Let me just try it this way. Oh, Skype, you forsake me. Trying again, folks, so just dialing away. And hang on. Yeah, this is not going to work tonight, unfortunately. Okay, so I was about to say goodbye, so let me finish saying goodbye. Thanks, everybody, for being here tonight. Really, really appreciate it very much. Going to have the Joe and Joe show on at 8:50, and we're going to attempt to do this again, this time with my colleague Addison Green. So maybe it's because of where they were located. They were outdoors tonight, and they were trying to use hotspots off their phone to generate the internet signal, and perhaps it didn't work very well. Obviously, I guess it didn't work very well. So we'll give it a try again at 8:50 with the Joe and Joe show, and you can check that out on Facebook at meteorologistjoecioffi.com or at Joe Rayo Weather. Thanks for joining me tonight, folks. We'll either see you later or we will see you tomorrow. And yes, Anomalous Howard, the U.S. Open weather should be great for the rest of the way, but Shinnecock is always subject to a sea breeze, so that wind may get a little funky there during the afternoon when it tries to shift out to the south and pick up to 20 or 25 miles an hour. It can get pretty breezy out at Shinnecock. All right, have a great evening, folks. We'll see you tomorrow.